Now I'd like to introduce Judy Gearhart. Most of our conversation today is focused on the situation here in the U.S., but we are joined by Judy, the Executive Director of the International Labor Rights Forum. Judy has worked on both grassroots organizing with women workers in Mexico and programs to incentivize brand and factory assurances for safe and decent workplaces, and has worked for UNICEF and ILO's IPEC program, looking at strategies to stop child labor and build better social supports for children at risk. Judy, I know that you examine these issues from a more global perspective and hope that you'll share with us how we should be promoting worker health and safety across borders. Please welcome Judy.
Thank you, Kimberly, and thank you for including the international perspective on this panel. My organization, the International Labor Rights Forum, covers the globe, and you can find out more about what we cover by going to laborrights.org. Today, since we're telling stories and looking backwards and forwards, I want to focus on the story of Bangladesh. The Bangladesh government provides data on the numbers of lives lost, and they report that 414 workers lost their lives in garment factory fires between 2006 and 2009. That's official government data. In 2010, we know of 2 large fires that happened in factories where 53 workers lost their lives. Those fires happened in factories producing for well-known brands like H&M and Gap, even factories producing, in some cases, uniforms that go to US government employees. It continues. And a lot of my reflection this morning is I'm thinking, how do we create the sea change in Bangladesh the way it happened 100 years ago here? Because the fires, if you have that many people, 100 workers dying a year like that, what's taking so long is the question that has to be asked. And just to give you a little perspective on the families, and I really appreciated Chris's participation, the compensation required by law for the death of those workers to go to their families is the equivalent of about 3 years of income for those workers, of that what they would have made. It's very small. Just to paint a picture, I don't know how many people have been to Dhaka, but as you drive around Dhaka, most of the factories are in downtown, in the city. They're crammed. As you'll see buildings that are maybe 4 or 5 stories, and then they have the structure, the sort of, the next floor is about to be built because they have those iron pylons coming out of the building. And this is what happens continuously. They get a building permit, maybe they pay for a building permit, or maybe they actually get an inspection. They build a building, and then they keep building on more and more stories. So the majority of the fires that are happening in Bangladesh are on the 8th and 9th floor of these factories, often floors that were never even permitted to be constructed. Fire safety, the fire department is supposed to inspect every year. Similar data in terms of lack of inspectors for the 4,500 garment factories in the country. The bribes are common. So oftentimes, fire inspectors don't even show up. They just accept a bribe and the permit is renewed. Fire drills are sporadic at best. And if you've ever been in Dhaka traffic, you don't want to be in a fire there because no fire brigade is going to make it through within 30 minutes, as in the case of the Triangle Fire. Talking to managers, they complain that they say, well, we've trained our workers on fire safety. They don't understand, or they don't really take it seriously. Why don't they take it seriously is the question one has to ask. Of course they should, but why not? And then you also have managers complaining, well, when the workers protest, they really protest. It's a bit like a wildfire. When one group of workers goes out on strike, other workers will leave their stations and go out on the street and join. So all of a sudden you have quite large protests. These are symptoms of a serious communication problem. And it's no surprise that in the Bangladesh garment industry, the trade unions are marginalized. They have no real voice. In the export processing zones, trade unions aren't permitted. Even though, since 1991, the AFL has filed 3 GSP petitions. The ebbs and flows of the pressure behind those petitions have ended up resulting in one really sort of minor change, which is worker associations are allowed. Worker associations don't have collective bargaining power. How can we, from here, influence that change? And I think there are 3 general areas to focus on. We can do a lot of training on health and safety and fire safety, that's true. But at the core, the solution has to come from the Bangladeshis. And I think we've seen consistently here from the conversations about the Triangle Fire that it's really workers' rights at work, workers' voice, that enables a real solution. Where's development cooperation? The Bangladeshi government has several development priorities, but it doesn't include workers' rights. It includes drawing investment in, it includes increasing their power grid, and it includes food security. But how to think about integrating workers' rights into those development priorities is important. And if you look at how much US development aid is going to Bangladesh, and then you pool it with World Bank aid and UN aid and European governments that are providing aid, somehow finding a way to achieve donor coordination to integrate workers' rights into that development aid is one core area where we could work together. The other one is using economic pressure, and there are 2 pieces of economic pressure. One is as consumers, just private consumers, pressing for the brands to do more, and they are trying. But the brands and the development cooperation need to push the Bangladeshi government and the Bangladeshi employers to do more. And then the last is through government procurement. 25% of workers in this country wear uniforms to work, and many of them are government employees. Where are those uniforms made, and what can the government do to pressure for change in the garment industry here and abroad? Thank you.
Thank you so much.